Good afternoon. This is my process improvement and explanation on what we can do better at Parker Hannafin in the area of the Flowcon packing station at the end of the paint line. We're going to go over a little bit of what our organizational background is, process summary, the current flow chart, what our current state and our goal would be, some data collection we use to get the information, some cause and effects, and the cause chart, what some potential roadblocks could be with this new process implementation, and plans to sustain it. And then we wrap it up at the end. Parker Hannafin is the leader in motion control devices, where we build, test, and machine and purchase product to be sold to different customers. This is a great chance that at some point our valves have kept something cold or maintained the facility to keep food cold for you. We have numerous products over a different array of applications. This is the product line that we sticker and box that I want to improve the process flow for this. And right now we have 5 people in a process that it goes from the paint line to where the person at the end of the paint line takes the valve off, where then goes to the other station where it is packed and finalized and put to stock. That is the process that I want to work on. Then from there, another associate picks it, and then another associate finalizes it to be sold and purchased from the customer. So it starts where we grab the painted valve, and if it's tagged right, we then take the valve, scan it where we get the labels out, and then we also scan it once again to where it's back flushed. If it's not right, we have to take it back to the cell and either get it remade or relabeled. And then once we get everything okayed, we'll label the valve, we will box it and stage it to be picked. So this is the process area that we are using right now. We are at 14 feet by 16.5 feet, which is 231 square feet, and a full-time associate. The area that's used to store the valves is a 9-foot by 2-foot area. I would think we would need to purchase another area to hold potential valves to be shipped, but I wouldn't do that right away. I think we should test it out with the current rack we have here, because this area is a made-to-order area, so we don't necessarily have a lot of stock there. We shouldn't have a lot of stock there because all the stuff that we have there should be ready to go within the next couple days. And if you just have the total square footage of 231 square feet, and if you had 2 racks, you would have a potential of 90 feet from that 231, which would be 41 square feet that we would save, along also with the lines of another associate that would be freed up for elsewhere tasks. But like I said, I don't think we should purchase another rack at the moment. We should just test it out with one to see how it goes. So I needed some data collection to help me verify that we could do better. So being with the 2 weeks of my data collection, I tracked what valves were missed, what valves were duplicated, and the time of a full-time associate that we used in the one of the 5. As you can see, there wasn't very many valves missed because we are pretty good at what we do. There were a few valves that were duplicated. We have a truck list that is started off in the back of the cell where the people that are assembling the valves go off that, and once the valves are assembled, it goes to the paint line. Well, the only problem is we don't always have a full-time associate available for them to finalize the valve. So sometimes when the valve is finished, it'll be sitting there the next day, and once the day before's truck list is done, the new one comes out, and if we don't have that valve finalized, it will show up again. And sometimes we're pretty good at what we do. Like I said, they do take in consideration that it might be done, and there's communication that needs to be said, and they go back and forth to see if we have it. But that's also added time and added steps that they don't need to do, and then sometimes they accidentally make it again, or the valve that was made from the day prior was taken for a different order, and they still need to make it again. Then the other part is the time that's spent on there. And on average, it's between 5 and 6 hours a day that's used just for boxing these valves. But with that being said, a lot of times these valves are made for the day and the next day. So we're not always spending the right amount of time boxing these valves for orders for that day. So by freeing up that person, they could be picking stuff and getting stuff for other things, but the valves that would be ready would be the ones that were ready for the day and not the ones ready for tomorrow. So some of the causes and effects of why this is a problem: the material not getting to the cell, as with the people, we're having limited staff and they're afraid of change. And we have multiple methods used, including the truck list and the poor visibility of the finished product. And that would leads us to the unrealistic time for the product availability, whereas there might be some sitting there from the day before made again, and vice versa. With the information from the 2 weeks of March, we have some information on errors of how much time is used to finish the valves. This shows us that we always do not have enough time as well as people to do the job. By adding the one job to the other four and not bombarding one, there's enough time in the day to add this. Then we can also reduce errors by having the valve be current when the painter scans it and received in front of the paint line, and when we add another check with the person that takes the valve off to verify the label. And you can see here's a chart showing that most of the, not necessarily problems, but most of the places for improvement is our time spent on doing that, when we can free that person up and just split up all those tasks amongst the four other people. Some roadblocks that we could come across. Right now, the current process for a majority of our other valves is we paint and scan them in the front of the paint line, which this then triggers labels to be made, and it goes on to what we call our McDonald's screen, and we verify the part coming off the paint line. The second associate verifies the part coming off the paint line in the order that it's hung, and the labels come off and printed off in the order that it's scanned. So we then verify that the valve is correct, and we label it, and then we touch screen our part off, then that back flushes the part to stock. Well, with this process as is now, the IT department would have to incorporate this same idea with the Flowcon valve, is that when we scan the Flowcon valve in the front of the paint line with Associate 1, it would then trigger the labels to be made for this valve, and then put this on our, what we call McDonald's screen, for the second person to verify the part, label it, and then backflush it. So that would be a roadblock, as if IT couldn't do that. I don't see that being a problem. Our IT department is very smart with doing it in the first place. We mimicked this, and our IT department made that entire program for us to do. Another problem could be ergonomics. By taking the one person of all the work that they do and splitting it amongst the four, it could prove to be too much. I don't see that happening with the way we split it up, and now we're doing valves that are just for that day to be packed. We don't necessarily have, like, there are days that will be heavy, but like I said, we'll have that associate freed up, that if we need to put them in a different spot to help out, that would be good. Another roadblock that people are stuck in their old ways, old habits. Some are scared of change, and they like to come the familiarity of doing the same thing over and over. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The other potential roadblock would be not being able to put or set aside money to purchase and place equipment for storage of final valves. I don't think, like I said, I don't want to do that right away. I want to test it out with the area we have. We don't always want to have an abundance of finished stock, especially with these valves being made to order. They try to only go out 2 to 3 days unless there's a massive order. Then they'll plan for it. We don't have a abundance of stock of these yet. We're still trying to work out what ones to stock and if any. One thing to sustain this plan is once we get all this stuff moved and all that area is freed up, the label printers put to the second part of the process with the second associate. We need people to be all trained and on the same page. And once that is done, we need management to enforce the fact that just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. We also need to take measures and to retrack the same process again with the new implementation of the process. Once we do that, document errors if any, but also document improvements, because anything that is not wrong is considered a win. And that, on top of all the fact that we have all that area that we have freed up, could potentially be used for other means. And once that is done, we could also, well, we will also take time set aside for, if it works, to not necessarily celebrate our victory, but it's always good to, when you put in hard work and time, to make note of that and see if we can document that to be used elsewhere. So in conclusion, as we move forward in an ever-demanding world of keeping the world's food and beer cold, we must address the everyday issues by not fixing what we do every day, but taking existing processes and improve them to not only make them safer, but keep the business in profit. We must stay ahead of all competition. We must lead the curve and not follow it. If we go forward with this process change, I see that not only this working here, but continuing to modify existing processes for us to all do better and with what we do more efficiently and safely. Thank you.